Let's make pinto beans. The origins of pinto beans are South and Central America. Initially, very popular with the Aztecs, pinto beans were served on a regular basis and still are today. However, pintos are now a part of our African heritage. In our culture, we cook them in a variety of different ways. Because our culture is broken down into so many subcultures, and depending on where you live or whatever the demographics are, you could have pintos that are served with smoked turkey, smoked pork, or sometimes smoked beef. The way that I cook my pinto beans are with smoked turkey, and I pair them up very nicely with cornbread and steamed white rice. When preparing this dish and gathering all of my ingredients, I also like to use a variety of different vegetables, such as shallots, white onions, russet potatoes, cilantro, celery, and lime. These different vegetables and fruits add a nice flavor to this pinto bean dish. Very, very enjoyable. The vegetables used in this dish can be diced and chopped. They don't have to be finely chopped or diced, just kind of a little rough cut, because we're going to throw them into the pot and they'll boil down and stew down, and some of them will even disappear. This is how I like to prepare. Let's get 1 bag of pinto beans that equals 1 pound. We will then pour these beans into a large pot. Once we have the beans poured into the pot, we will then take our hand and just sort through the beans to make sure there aren't any pieces of dirt or debris. Sometimes there's like little pieces of tree bark or, different things that come from the packing of the beans. So we want to make sure that they're clean. One of the things that I like about pinto beans is that they look so different from each other. Some of them are darker in color. Some have a lot of speckles on them. Some have a few speckles. Some have no speckles, which is very, very interesting to me because it reminds me of my culture. We come in so many different shapes, sizes, colors, just a host of different people. And we're all just, we're equally the same. We all should be treated the same. And so I just want to share that little bit with you guys. But on with this recipe. After we're done assorting the beans, double checking to make sure that they're good to go, the next thing that we'll be doing is we need to rinse the beans. So what I like to do is I normally fill a pot of water. I fill the pot of beans up with water, and I'll take my hand and kind of just run through them back and forth, back and forth. Eventually what happens is any debris that's in the beans that are mixed in there will float to the top. And then I'll take my hand and remove them, pour that water out, and then I'll repeat that process maybe 3 or more times until the water becomes clear. Now, after the water becomes clear, then I like to go right on to the next step, and that's when I begin to get my seasonings together. I like to use different seasonings, not so much sodium based, but different powders such as onion powder, garlic powder, rosemary. I use maybe a teaspoon or so of multi-purpose seasoning. If you guys don't want to use that, feel free to use salt. I like to use black pepper. I use crushed pepper, things of this nature. And feel free to not use any sodium or salt-based seasonings if you do not want to. I also like to use garlic. I use fresh garlic sometimes. Sometimes I'll use minced garlic or chopped garlic. Today, I'll be using garlic that is based in olive oil. I like to do this because, number one, I love the aroma and I love the texture of the garlic. Now that we've gone through the different seasonings that I like to use, I will then place all of my chopped vegetables into the same pot with the pinto beans that have the water in there. Now, the amount of water that I like to use on my pinto beans, because I'm not really a cook that measures. I've been cooking since I was 8 years old. There isn't anything that I can't cook. So measuring is not really for me. So I'll do the best that I can. What I like to do is put my pound of pinto beans into a pot, and I will fill that pot up with water to the point that it's almost close to the top, but not to the point that once it boils, it will boil over. So let's just keep that in mind. But fill that pot up with water. And then after we get that water in that pot, we're going to then add all of the chopped vegetables. Like I said before, put that lime right on in there with them. I like to shake that lime around a little bit. I don't really squeeze the lime when I place it into the pinto beans like this to boil. I just kind of shake it around and loosen up a little bit of the juice. It's pretty much going to do what it's going to do, and at the end, I'll remove that lime. But for right now, for the duration of this boil, we're going to use that lime all the way until the end, until the beans are done, and then we'll take it out. Let's throw those seasonings right on in there. You see I put the crushed pepper in there. That is my Mexican oregano. I like to use that, 2 tablespoons of it. Feel free not to use it if you don't want to. I use the Mexican oregano because I like the flavor. It's not as strong as the Italian oregano, so that's why I like to use that. And then what we'll do after this is we are gonna continue on putting that seasoning in, everything. That's my garlic powder right there. Even though I use minced garlic, I still like to use powdered garlic. Garlic is really good to lower the blood pressure, so that's why I tend to use a lot of it in my food. I don't really mind the aroma. I don't mind the flavor. It actually makes the dish taste pretty good to me. So after we get all of those seasonings and chopped vegetables in there, we will then cover our pot with a lid. Put that top right on there. And I like to leave a little bit of room so that the pot can breathe. This will prevent the pot from boiling over. Now, I know that you guys are saying, like, where's that smoked turkey? Well, here it is. I like to put my smoked turkey in a separate pot, and I'll boil this for approximately 1 hour and a half. Once this turkey is done, I will then remove it from this. I'll discard the water, remove it from the pot, and I'll place it right into the same pot that has my pinto beans, my chopped vegetables, and my seasonings in there. And that's where that smoked turkey is if you were looking for it. Moving right along, we have 1 cup of long grain white rice. This is what I like to use. I like to boil my rice, rule of thumb, just either use 2 cups of water with this rice or measure that water according to that. If it reaches the knuckle of your thumb, that's enough water. Now, here is the finishing results of my beans. As you can see, they're cooking and they're thickening up perfectly. I want them a little bit thicker though. This is what they should become. Thicker and thicker. Or, now let me say this. If you don't like thick beans, you could cut them off right here. When you see that your beans are kind of soupy and you want to eat like a pinto bean soup, let's cut it off right there. However, if you like yours thicker like I do, let them continue on to cook on low for an additional 20 minutes. Look at that turkey in there. The turkey has broken down. I left the bones in the pot, so the bones are definitely still in there. I just kind of turned it down and let the meat fall off of the bones. Here I am pairing up my pinto beans with rice, and I have me a side of cornbread. I'm going to enjoy this meal. Take care. Go for it.